Welcome, everyone. I am Maria DeRosa, and I am the founder of Ladies of the Kitchen. And this is our monthly for the month of December, our Ladies of the Kitchen 30-minute chat. And I don't know if my friend over there has her beverage, but I got my holiday water glass going. So if you'd like, oh, see, and she's got hers too, because we'll be chatting and connecting. So I'm going to start off by telling you a little bit about this wonderful lady. First of all, see, I'm so excited I can't talk straight. Her name is Julie Ohana. I don't know, just the way you say it sounds so cool. And when I started with this whole project of connecting with Julie, uh, I was looking at the list of accolades, and she said, you know what? I just call myself a culinary art therapist and clinical social worker. But you know what? She has some other amazing titles, along with being mom, which I always like to put up at the top. She's just audacious in every way. She started her passion early in life, kind of like me, which is with cooking. This is one of the reasons we're connected. She's worked in the fields of inpatient substance abuse, which I'm very familiar with myself, outpatient mental health treatment, and has years of experience working with young adults. And as a former high school teacher, I love that. And also their parents. She's currently in West Bloomfield, Michigan. Not Minnesota, right, Julie? That's a little private joke, guys. And she has a wonderful husband and two kids. So, welcome to Ladies of the Kitchen 30-minute chat, Julie. I'm so glad
So
you.
happy to be here.
So, let's start off with I mentioned in your little introduction here that you have cooking as this gift and passion from way back when. Can you explain a little bit of how that originated and then how therapy kind of worked its way into that?
Definitely. So my some of my earliest childhood memories are involve being in the kitchen. They involve my grandparents and my parents, my sister, my family, lots of love and food, cooking. I can picture, I feel like anyone who has little kids can picture that plastic Fisher Price little table and chair set. And I can picture putting those chairs in front of my mom's oven growing up in the kitchen, and my sister and I perched in front of the oven, looking through that window of the oven, waiting for, I don't even remember what was cooking because it didn't really matter. It was the connection that I just always knew that food and cooking brought people together, filled with lots of love. So it truly was in my blood from a very young age. And as I grew older, my passion was just always helping people, listening to people, and helping however I could. And years later, obviously not from that Fisher Price set anymore, when I went to graduate school for social work, I just knew that this was my chance to be able to combine my two passions of helping people and cooking. And culinary art therapy was born out of a master's thesis about almost 25 years ago.
Oh my gosh, I love that story. And where yours pretty much was always there. The reason I was so connected to you is I had that, but I wasn't able to really bloom with it because of the substance abuse factor in my home. So explain to me how you chose to get into that specific arena and then using your passion there.
Yeah, so I remember as I was a little bit older, growing from that Fisher Price set, I would come home from high school, and every kid typically you come home from school and you're starving, and you grab a snack, and maybe you plop yourself in front of the TV and watch an after school special. Dating myself now, but it was always like grab a snack and go to something else. And for me, I would come home from school, and yes, of course, I wanted a snack like everybody else, but what I really wanted to do was unwind by making the snack. So I remember chopping vegetables and making salads and really investing the time and the energy into preparing that snack as a way to decompress for my day. And I just knew very early on that there was something to that act of cooking that was cathartic, that was therapeutic, that was beneficial to me and to so many other people.
Oh my gosh, that is so great. And so when you started your work, was your first actual career in social working then, as a
Uh,
social worker?
so I had a few jobs before I went back to graduate school, but after graduate school, my first job after graduation was in Chicago, working for Lutheran Social Services in an inpatient treatment facility. And I worked there for about a year. And from there, I came back home and ended up in the high school as a school social worker. And I had several jobs working at different nonprofit organizations, but all the while, I always had culinary therapy brewing in the
The
back.
back of mine.
Um,
Yeah.
yes, and I would interject it within my practice. I would do all sorts of cooking groups. Cooking was always involved, and very early on, I got together a website, and it sat for a little while, but it was there. It was always something that I knew I would come to, and slowly but surely, I integrated it into these other jobs until really it was probably the pandemic that at first I had a group scheduled and the pandemic hit and like everybody else it was okay, your calendar is wiped clean, everything is canceled, and I had that moment of thinking, oh my gosh, this is it, it's the end. How do you come back from this? And after a little while, when everybody realized we really did need to acclimate and adjust and pivot, people started scheduling groups online. And I realized that, which is so funny to think that it wasn't until, that year that I started doing groups online, that cooking works virtually. And the groups kept growing as people were making their banana bread and their sourdough starters and desperate for connection and finding ways to self-soothe. And really, the practice only blossomed from there.
I love that. So, I know that when I was teaching, you mentioned about how cooking just pretty much permeates everything as far as bringing people together
Yeah.
and somehow that feeling of connection. So, way back when with high school students, and I had senior football players, a lot of the times, the way I would get to them as far as inspiring them was to work with food in the actual lesson plan and
Right.
reward them with, like, okay, you did great. So, guess what you get at the end of the semester? Homemade lasagna or whatever it would be at the time, depending on the season. So, I totally relate to that. You mentioned your first job in that setting at the Lutheran, was it the Lutheran church, was it?
Lutheran Social Services.
Yes,
Yeah.
Lutheran Social Services. Did they promote a certain philosophy or feeling that you just feel you've been able to take and move into other areas of your life with what you're doing now?
Well, because that program was an inpatient program, they had a kitchen. They lived there. So
Ah,
part of that life obviously included needing to eat, but it included being able to come together as a community. And again, as you know, that's it's just such a natural in the kitchen. So there were always so many group connecting experiences and opportunities that I found in my work. In Chicago, when I went to the high school, I worked at Jewish Family Service for many years and started doing lots of different groups there. And then from there, really growing it out into my larger community, not just where I was working, but really started with a side business that slowly but surely grew into a much larger practice.
I want you to expand a little bit. For those of you, she's going to tell us a little bit later where we can find her. But on your website, you really stress in quite a few little areas the importance of the family meal, which I
Yes.
agree with too. But can you expand a little bit why you feel that is so important, and especially in today's age here in America?
Absolutely. So again, the family meal, and this is for me, a lot of it is that time to sit around the table and talk, right? To come together, to listen to one another, to learn about one another, to show empathy and excitement and support for the people that we're hopefully caring about and loving the most in life, our family. But it's so important. It's to be able to show kids that their parents care about them, their parents want to hear about them, and for kids to be able to see that parents need that support as well, right? Just because
Uh-huh.
we're the adults doesn't mean we don't need others to care about us and support us. So not only is that possible when you're sitting around a table eating, but it's even more possible in many ways when you're doing the food preparing. So I have two kids. My kids have grown up in our kitchen. They have always been active in helping in chopping and mixing and baking. And I have a great video of my daughter who's now 14, but when she was maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4, rolling meatballs with her cute little hands. It was always just a great time for us to spend quality time together, connecting with one another. And for me to be able to show my kids how much I love them, how much I support them, how much I want them a part of my life. And from all of those wonderful qualities, hopefully you're raising kids who grow up knowing they are loved, they are accepted, they have a place to go, people to talk to, people who look out for them, and that will serve them for many, many years to come, hopefully.
Oh, yeah, I love that. So, right now you have two at home.
Mhm.
How do you go about juggling your wonderful work that you do, the kids at home? Give us a little overview of
Yeah.
your day and how that gets handled.
Balance is a tough one for everyone. And I think so often when people think balance, they think, well, you have to do it all. And that's not the case. Nobody can do it all. But there's one night a week that I work late in the office, and that night I'm not making dinner. Sometimes I don't get home till 6, 7 o'clock at night. I'm not starting to cook then. My husband knows he's on duty that night. My kids are old enough, they can make their own dinner. I'm not putting that pressure on myself and my wonderful family. They don't put it on me or expect it either, that every night is going to look the same. Last night, this was a great example. Last night, I had a virtual session that I was doing, and those sessions I work from home. And
Mhm.
the dish that we made in the session was chicken pot pie. I made the chicken pot pie, and when the session was over, guess what was for dinner?
I
The
love
fruits
it.
of my labor, right? So
Yes.
I'm very lucky that my professional life I'm able to share it and integrate it into my personal home life as well.
How does your husband fit into this picture? I know you mentioned a little bit, but I mean, have you seen him change in terms of his food choices, in terms of assisting more in the kitchen? What have you seen transpire?
So less change because I married someone who also loves to cook. And he also, from a very young age, has wonderful memories with his family, with his grandparents. He's an amazing cook. Culturally, our backgrounds are very different and we make very different food, which is an amazing combination for our family, for our kids. But he makes the food that he loves, that he grew up with, which are amazing. And I make foods that speak to me, which are a little bit different, but we both enjoy that time and respect that time for one another. And my husband very much gets what I do because he has always felt the same way.
Now I have a question that some people were asking when I was kind of promoting that we were going to talk. Culinary art and therapist. Okay, we all kind of know what therapy is about, but how did you put the art piece into the culinary and therapy?
Right. So it's when you talk about going to cooking school, culinary school is the culinary arts, right? It is the art of cooking. As much as especially baking is a science, but cooking is also an art. And it really does allow for creative outlet and self-expression and so many of these things that as humans we need. It's important to have that outlet and that ability to have self-expression and create different beautiful things that speak to us. And I really find that food does that, cooking does that.
I have a question that a lot of people sometimes feel when they enter the kitchen for the first time in terms of exploration and really developing a connection because maybe they just didn't have that like you
Yeah.
and I did growing up. And they go, well, I'm not going to be good at it. I didn't go to a school. I don't know about nutrition. What is your response to people who feel like they have to have all this knowledge?
Right. So it's the same thing of anything in life. When we start anything, we can't start off and be an expert. And I think so often those fears, those needs to be perfect and get it done right. And I often in my practice talk a lot about the shoulds, how we often think, I should be able to do this, I should be good at that. But those shoulds hold us back. They're really rooted in judgment, judging ourselves. And cooking is a great opportunity to try and check some of that at the door and leave it there and work past it. Food doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't need to be, it's not, no, nothing is perfect, right? It's a work in progress. And especially with food, we're all different. We all have different taste buds. And it's very hard to judge something as good or right. If it tastes good to you, if it looks good to you, then it's right. It's a great place to be able to learn those skills. And this is what my practice is all about, is learning certain skills that are so important and so crucial and so able to be learned in the kitchen, and then take them and apply them to life outside of the kitchen.
What is every craft has a special like tool that they bring to the table. For example, a carpenter might have, his hammer that's very special to him or a special screwdriver. What is your go-to special tool that you just love and can't be without?
That's a great question. I'm not actually a huge fan of too many kitchen gadgets. I don't love clutter and mess. I like easy, clean, streamlined things. So I would say my favorite, the thing that I'm constantly using is one simple chef's knife that has a little bit of sentimental value because a good friend of mine and my mentor actually bought it for me for my 40th birthday and had my name engraved in it. So it's, every chef needs a good knife, and this is my favorite knife. And obviously, chopping, there's a lot of chopping that goes on, and that is probably my favorite activity in the kitchen. So I've always got my one go-to knife.
That's great. So what is your favorite cuisine and or particular food? Is there one that you have?
So my husband's Israeli and he cooks Israeli Moroccan food, which is amazing and delicious. My favorites are really, I would say, anything vegetables. Lots of fresh salads. I love cooking seasonally, so whatever's in season and readily available at the time, I love. But that's probably my favorites. The salads and the veg to me are always the stars.
So right now, because we are always students and learning, as you know, because food is always being changed in terms of the harvest or what's available to us.
Right.
So what person do you just look up to in terms of learning more now? Is there any one person or resource?
That's a great question. There's so many people, and that's where I think the beauty of Instagram is. Obviously what I follow most online are people who cook, people who, talk about cooking not just as the art of the dish, but really the experience, whether it's with their families, their travels. It's really integrated into their lives. Um, so many people. Oh my goodness, where to even begin?
Right.
Eden Greenspan in Toronto, she's amazing. Ina Garden, obviously a classic.
Yes.
Uh, Adina Sussman in Tel Aviv, she's definitely one of my favorites. Um, yeah, so many people, and it's so easy to follow and watch so many great people.
Isn't it? I know. Recently, I had the pleasure of a totally new foodie in our industry, and that's Valerie Bertinelli, when she
Yeah,
just published a book and she was out here. And just listening to her story, it really exemplifies what you were saying. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to have all this knowledge because basically she just loved food, grew up Italian,
Right.
obviously, and decided to explore it more in her second chapter. So
Yeah,
it's really a testament that you can do it when you love it, right?
absolutely.
Um,
Yes.
so have you had what you would say is your aha moment in your career? Have you had one, or do you feel it's always unfolding?
It's always unfolding. I've been doing this for over 20 years, and every session I do, I feel like every session is that aha moment where I just watch it in action and I watch other people experience everything that I'm always talking about. And it's magical every time. It's really the power of food and connection and seeing how something so simple can impact so many people is really it's just miraculous every time. Doesn't get
It
old.
it is. Oh, so pick an event in this last year only, one event that you went, came home, and just like felt so good about what you did. Can you share that
Yeah,
with
sure. So I have a client that I work with, I've been working with for a while. Very anxious person. This is somebody who unfortunately has dealt with anxiety for a long, long time and trying to find, as a therapist, we're always looking for different tools of how to help our clients. And one of the best ways that I was able to help this person was bringing a cutting board and a knife and some cucumbers into the office and teaching them how to chop. We chopped cucumbers. And this is not somebody who is a cook or, was a cook and was especially excited to be doing something with food or, we weren't even in a kitchen. But they were able to see in that moment that even the idea of doing this was anxiety provoking. They said while they were chopping, they felt no anxiety. And that is just so powerful to me because it's something that, again, if you're lucky enough to have a roof over your head and have a home, we all have some kind of kitchen. It doesn't need to be a gourmet, five-star chef's kitchen. Um, Most of us hopefully have access, hopefully, to fresh fruits and vegetables. What's more simple than a cucumber? And all these different, we sliced rounds and we julienned and we did all these different shapes and sizes that it was really able to be an exercise in mindfulness to get their mind off of the pain of the anxiety and have a respite from it. And that just to me was jackpot.
You know what? I love this story for several reasons. There is so much truth in that and science too. I
Yeah,
believe it was St. Jude's that recently completed a study on the children that are dealing with early stages of leukemia and cancer,
yeah,
how just bringing some baking dough, making sure that
yeah,
it's, gluten-free and whatever, because in some cases of the immune, but just working with that in their hands for that 20 minutes or half an hour, whatever they're doing, the mind has now shifted from I'm sick, I'm worried about me, I don't feel good into an activity that just,
right.
yeah, it just is mind blowing, literally, right?
Yeah, it's very powerful. Something so simple really is so powerful and impactful.
And the thing is we all have this available to us. We all need to eat,
Right.
right?
Yep, that's right.
So make it an experience of joy. So,
Exactly.
right now, would you say that there is a special vision that you have for yourself or for your family or for your career in 2025 and going forward?
There is. So, probably the most specific thing is for the last several years, I've been working on a book. And it is just about, manuscript is just about complete. And it will be published in the coming year or so. And I just can't wait to get that in the hands of people all over the world and feel like it's not just about me, on my time being able to help people but being able to get this tool into the hands of so many other people so they can help themselves. So
Oh, I
I'm,
think that's wonderful.
thank
Congratulations.
you.
This
Thank you.
is
Yes, very excited about it.
All right, so we're going to be wrapping this up. I just have a few more questions for you. One of them is, um, how do you want to be remembered?
Oh, wow. First and foremost, I want to be remembered as a good person, somebody who was good to others and was known to be kind. And, of course, top of the list, I want to be known as a great mom, a good wife, a good daughter, a good sister, friend, all of those things, and just have people know that I loved many and was loved by many others.
What's a fun fact about you that has nothing to do with the culinary field?
So the easiest one is that everyone who knows me teases me that I'm completely dog obsessed. Um,
Oh,
I had two dogs at one point. Now we have one. Our older girl passed away a couple years ago, but I have a sheepadoodle named Belle that I'm absolutely just crazy over. And if I'm not watching cooking or food videos online, I'm probably watching and laughing at a good dog video.
that's so great. Another connection, right, with the touch of our senses, a dog.
Yes,
Oh, I
yes.
love that. Okay, so let's wrap this up. Can you tell people where they can find more about you and follow you?
Definitely. Best place is find me on Instagram at Culinary Art Therapy, and my website is culinaryarttherapy.com.
And I'll make sure to put that in the notes below. Is there any final statements that you would like to tell somebody that would be starting off in this field or just starting off with a new adventure in life, being an
Yeah,
entrepreneur? What would you share?
just enjoy. Remember to have fun and keep it simple and don't overthink things and just lead with your passion. Grab some vegetables, make a salad, and grab a friend or a loved one and enjoy together.
I love it. With that, everyone, I am toasting my friend here, Julie. Thank you so much for
Cheers.
being a guest tonight.
Thanks
And
for having me.
have a great Christmas and a wonderful holiday.
Thanks.